how's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Texas Chainsaw Massacre by himself. This is a one-shot comic put out by Wildstorm Comics, and it is collected in the Book Two trade paperback. I have to say, this story is a really good one. It's Sheriff Hoyt's origin story, and we get to find out how he became the guy we saw in the movies. There's a few lines of dialogue in the movies that allude to this story, but we never got it spelled out, and boy, that's sad that we didn't, because this story is dark. Hoyt's a prisoner of war in Korea, and his camp gets snowed in. And let's just say, food gets really scarce, things get pretty desperate. This is a super dark and super bleak and super disturbing story, and you really get to see how trauma made him into the man we see in the movies, and it really does help explain his character and really give his character a lot more depth. I've said this in past videos, I'm not a super big fan of the remake continuity, and I know Sheriff Hoyt has a cult following, but honestly, I just found him really loud and annoying, and I just was never a huge fan of him. I thought he was one of the worst family members, and I think that kind of exemplifies what I don't like about the remakes. They're big and in your face, but ultimately kind of just missing the point and kind of just for show. They were more mean-spirited and not really a cold look at darkness like Tobe Hooper's original was. And yeah, Hoyt just running around being a jerk. I wasn't a huge fan. But reading this and seeing how he got to be who he was really made me understand and appreciate his character a lot more. And I really wish that more of this found its way into the movie. I honestly consider this basically essential reading if you want to appreciate his character more. And yeah, you really get to see him put through the ringer in this, and it is super dark and super bleak. It's definitely worth your time. It really helped me understand a character I didn't really like, and I'm not the hugest fan of him now, but this really does put a lot into perspective, and it's one of those pieces of tie-in media that retroactively makes the movie better. And I do like there are a few little things from the movie that we get to see him do, but in different context in Korea. Like, you get to find out his whole push-up thing, where that came from. So overall, it really does add something to the story, and I would definitely recommend tracking this down and reading it. As I said, I wasn't a huge fan of the remake continuity in the movies, but in the comics, I've been really liking it so far. And after this, there's just one more story in this book. I'm hoping it's good as well. But anyway, if you guys want to see the story in a little bit more detail, I'll switch to the close-up camera and I'll show you guys some of the story and some of the art. I'll be avoiding major spoilers though, but without further ado, let's switch to the close-up camera. Alright, here we are inside the castle, taking a closer look at the Texas Chainsaw Massacre by himself. Once again, this is collected inside Book 2, and let's bring this closer to the camera. Flipping through the credits, we can see that By Himself was written by Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, with art by Wes Craig. Now, if these names seem familiar, you may note that Abnett and Lanning wrote the last one-shot About a Boy, a really good story there, but Abnett, Lanning, and Craig all did the original miniseries AmeriCarnivore, which takes up the entirety of Volume 1. So cool to see the original team back together. I will say Craig's art does seem different this time around, and I bet that's because of the colorist, Randy Mayer. It's very soft and painterly, so it does give it a very different feel, but we'll see that in just a second. Let's flip to the story proper. Now, I'm not going to do any major spoilers, but I do want to say my piece on a few plot points and show you guys some of the story and the art, so I'll try to avoid the end bits, but let's dive in a little deeper. We can see Hoyt's pulled over this car, a little yellow car. I wonder if that's a Evil Dead style Delta or something, and this guy's been coughing and he's got an air freshener going. I think think we know what he's up to. Yeah, Hoyt is not very 420 friendly. I'll also say that there are these little panels that are all in roughly the same aspect ratio, and they're point of view shots. Not everything is a point of view shot in this story, but it is an interesting element to guide you through it. But of course, looks like this guy's all out of luck. And we get to see the title card is slightly different. It reads Hoyt by himself instead of just by himself. I wonder why they took the character name out of the front title. Anyway, we can see that Hoyt is up to his old antics. He is going to have this guy surrender and then take it way farther than a real police officer would. Yeah, Hoyt's gonna knock him out and he's not going to wake up in a good spot. However, he starts to talk and we get to hear him talk about being a veteran and spending some time in Korea. And yeah, turns out Hoyt was a POW. We're gonna get this really cool black, white, and red style for the flashbacks. And there's Hoyt and a bunch of other people going to a prisoner of war camp, and it's going to be very, very cold. We get to see that they would make them walk every day despite being starving, and if you fell down and couldn't walk, that'd be the end of you. However, they pair him up with this officer, and Hoyt finds that officers are getting special treatment. Even though this guy is too sick to walk, Hoyt has to carry him because they can't kill officers as easily. They're more important. Well, Hoyt goes, this guy can't eat anyway, so if I'm keeping an eye on him, what if I steal his food? And he's coughing all night, and the guards don't like if you're coughing all night. Maybe I'll keep you from coughing. And yeah, next thing you know, Hoyt's wearing the officer's uniform and he's enjoying that special treatment. If you've seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning, you know this is right up his alley. We then cut back to Hoyt at the farmhouse, giving this guy a whole world of trouble, and he's yelling at him, got him up on the hooks, but then he's going to toss him to the ground and do the classic, if you can give me 50 push-ups, you can walk away. Well, let's find out where he got that from. Yeah, it turns out they take him to a very secluded base, and it gets really snowed in, and even though he's pretending to be an officer, he's still getting beaten up. It turns out they would do this thing where they would say, if you can give him 50 push-ups, you can just walk away from the camp. However, it's so snowy and icy that if you did decide to walk away, you would simply freeze to death. He's tied up with this other guy, and he's so hungry that he's going to eat this cockroach that crawls up on him. And here's where we get kind of the turning point. The other guy he's tied up with dies, which in and of itself is pretty traumatic. But they take him out back and begin to process him. Yeah, food's running really bad even for the people operating the POW camp, and they're going to have to resort to not letting any meat go to waste. And Hoyt goes, and then I started drooling. Oh man, this is such a good bit for his character. You know, like I said, in the movies, he's just this jerk, and, you know, he yells at people and he does the whole push-up bit, but I felt there really wasn't enough behind him. But this comic, having read it and seen the horrible ordeal that he goes through, it really helps you know and understand Hoyt a lot better, and I do like that they took just a passing line of dialogue and expanded on it and really gave us a whole lot to understand and know about this character. Like I said earlier, Hoyt was one of my least favorite Chainsaw family members, but seeing this story really does help me understand him. I'm still not a huge fan of his character, but this definitely helps flesh it out, and I think is, pretty much essential reading if you want to understand him. So yeah, definitely recommend it. It's a story I didn't think I'd be super interested in, but really had me invested. It was really brutal, really bleak, and yeah, a nice, really, you don't get snow in a chainsaw story very often, and the fact that it's a war story too is different, but it ties in so well. This is really good. Check it out. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Texas Chainsaw Massacre playlist, where you can see my reviews for the past stories in this run, as well as a lot of the movies. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.